Hey folks, how you doing? I wanted to talk about the midterm elections that occurred 1 week ago today. The Democrats won the House of Representatives back. The Senate, they stayed Republican. The governorships, of which there were many up for play, tilted towards the Democrats. And I'm also going to talk about implications of these results and some still pending races that could turn into recounts or runoffs. So I'll start with the quote unquote negative here. In the Senate, the Republicans grew their lead by, I believe, a seat or two. Even though they grew their lead, it wasn't as much as some initially thought they would. Uh, this is because Kirsten Sinema, in my home state of Arizona, she pulled ahead after a legal challenge failed by the GOP that would have limited the amount of ballots that were counted, which I thought was completely ridiculous. I think every vote should count. And as of yesterday, Martha McSally, Sinema's Republican opponent, she officially conceded. So the Democratic nominee, Kirsten Sinema, picks up a big seat in deep red Arizona, which is becoming purple, but deep red Arizona is really the conventional wisdom behind it. She becomes the first LGBTQ senator, I believe. I could be mistaken on that. Florida is also in play in terms of the Senate. It's in recount territory. Their governor race between Democrat Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis is also, I believe, in recount territory. That's how state law works for them. It looks like a likely GOP win, though. So it doesn't look as if the Democrats will pick up a seat in Florida. So the Senate map this year was quite difficult for Democrats. And the big reason is because lots of Democrats were up for reelection. They were the incumbents. So they had to play a lot of defense. So hopefully in 2020, that's not the case. And I don't believe it is. I think it might actually be the opposite, where more Republicans are defending their seats. And one of the main takeaways is that the Senate wasn't expected to turn blue, and the Senate didn't turn blue. More implications and takeaways, I would like to say for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I hope that she can hold on another couple of years. She had a fall. The Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg had a fall and broke some ribs at her age. That's very tough. I wish her all the best. But the reason I say that I would love for her to be able to hold on is not only for her own well-being, because she's been a great justice, but confirmations for the Supreme Court and other appointments that can be made by the president, they have to go through the Senate. So potentially we could have a third justice being appointed and confirmed by Donald Trump within, say, 2 years of his presidency. And that's a third of the court right there. And those are lifetime appointments, of course. Another implication from this Senate race is do not expect Trump to be removed from office. No matter what happens in the Mueller report, to an extent, I don't see the Senate convicting Donald Trump and removing him from office. Impeachment originates in the House, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And the Democrats now have the majority there, but you need, I believe 3/4 of the Senate to approve removal from office. So don't expect Trump to get removed from office unless Mueller's report comes out and he has committed just unthinkable crimes. Shifting over to the House of Representatives, the Democrats, they take back the House for the first time in 8 years. 227 to 198 is where the count is. The last time I saw it, that's a 29 seat majority for the Democrats. There are some races that are pending, though, and we'll find out those results hopefully soon. And some of the implications of that are, in the House, if President Trump wants to pass a budget, has to originate in the House. Introducing legislation, typically done in the House. Um, Something big for Trump personally is the newfound subpoena power of a Democratic House of Representatives. And what a subpoena is when you subpoena someone's, say, tax returns, where they legally have to hand over tax returns, or you subpoena somebody, or there's another word for what when you make them appear before a committee. It might be subpoena as well. So so yeah, this new house, they said that they claim that they are going to use their subpoena power to get Donald Trump's tax returns, which should be entertaining. And then committees turned over, the Judiciary Committee, Intelligence Committee, that had been doing pretty much Trump's bidding in terms of the Russia investigation. The House committee was absolutely insanely partisan, and the Republicans on that committee uh, were pretty much acting as Trump's defense lawyers. Well, there's going to be new committee heads now with a new majority. Adam Schiff, for instance, a proven prosecutor who has prosecuted Russian mobsters before in the past, is going to be replacing one of Trump's lackeys. So things are going to get bumpier. And then also, the potential for impeachment is on the table pending the Mueller report. As I said previously, I do not see Donald Trump being removed from office, but the potential for an impeachment vote to come to the floor is quite possible because that originates in the House, and now there appears to be a solid majority for the Democrats. Moving on to governor mansions and state legislatures. Dems, I think, gained ground in state legislatures, but I know that they gained ground in governorships. It was like the opposite of the Senate when it comes to governorships. The Republicans were really the ones that had to play a lot of defense here. So the Democrats picked up ground. Biggest implication is that this can really help, at least from the Democrat perspective, with redistricting and gerrymandering. For those who aren't aware, gerrymandering is when the party who's in control draws up congressional and legislative districts within their state that heavily favor one party. So they'll take a Democrat and they'll make one heavily Democratic seat and they'll carve it out specifically so a bunch of the surrounding seats can go the other way. So that's the biggest implication here is that the Democrats are either going to gerrymander a lot to their advantage, or they're going to start to make this a more fair fight, and they're going to try to do away with gerrymandering, which honestly helps them because Democrats, uh, even if they don't play that dirty game of gerrymandering, they generally win when things are fair. They win the popular vote most of the time. More people generally vote for them. So if they can come up with independent commissions that can draw fair lines, that might be the best thing, not only for the Democrats, but I believe it would be the best thing for our nation. Just a quick note, since we're talking about governorships, Abrams versus Kemp in Georgia. You might remember my previous video on voter suppression. If you haven't seen it, please go back and check it out, where I talk about Kemp, who's the Republican. He was serving as Secretary of State, pretty much running the election that he was running against Stacey Abrams in Georgia. And that race right now is too close to call. There's legal challenges that are working their way through the courts, and a runoff election could be forced in December. I think a runoff, and I'm not totally sure on this, I tried to do some quick research on it. I believe a runoff could mean a revote or a recount, something of that matter, but needless to say, Abrams versus Kemp is not over yet in Georgia. The Georgia's governor mansion is very much in play. So I'll wrap it up with some general implications of these results. Trump's life as president, it might get tougher. He's had free reign. He's had all three branches, and that time has come to a close. There's going to be subpoenas. There's going to be committees. There's going to be budget and legislation all impacted by the House flipping. There's going to be more oversight coming from the House of Representatives and funding for his border wall or for any other legislation. It's got to originate in the House. So things are going to get a little bit tougher. The Senate, of course, as I said, it remains red. Appointments are still full go for him in this heavily partisan environment. The ability for the Senate to vote down House originated legislation that that will definitely come into play. And then finally, from the Senate perspective, it's very unlikely that Donald Trump is removed from the presidency. He will most likely be running in 2020, pending any resignations or any crazy bombshells in a Mueller report, looking very likely that Donald Trump will be running for president again in 2020. Governor wins. Now, I just talked about 2020 a little bit. Governor wins could have implications for House and Senate races. Redistricting and gerrymandering is done by governors and state legislatures. So the Democrats picking up these seats is big for 2020. So overall, this was a big win for the Democrats. Don't let anyone tell you it was a blue trickle, a blue puddle. It was a blue wave, as expected. The Senate, it was never truly in play. Anybody who was being realistic about it knew the Senate, it was never in play. The only thing that could have happened is the Democrats could have picked up a couple of seats rather than lose a seat or two. But big and actually historically big gains were made in the House, and the Democrats picked up some governorships and state legislatures. The main takeaway from all of this is that no longer will the president have free reign come January. That is over. It's over. So please follow me on Twitter at JasonBPolitics. Hit subscribe, and I hope to talk to you guys soon. Thanks.